Guys, there are spoilers for this film in this review. So if you don't want to burn, go out, watch the film, then come back. You have been warned. Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time. Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of Ticket Tuesday. I am your host, Ronan HD. This week we watched Evil Dead Burn, starring Souheila Yacoub. I'm very, very sorry. And this is the newest installment in the Evil Dead franchise, and I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really enjoyable. I loved all the dead-eyed action, all the horror, the grossness, the blood, all the things that make Evil Dead enjoyable. But before I go on a little tangent, why I like this one, I'll tell you why I like this one and more back at the house.
Cheers to your perfect family.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan HD, and this week we watched Evil Dead Burn, the newest installment in the Evil Dead franchise, directed by Sébastien Vaniček, starring Souheila Yacoub. I think I pronounced that properly, and Hunter Doohan. This film is a horror, just like, I guess, like a horror, just straight up horror, I guess, demonic horror, you know, satanic horror in that sense. And obviously it is a sequel to Evil Dead Rise, which I was quite a fan of when I first watched it a few years ago. I actually reviewed that, if you want to check out my review of it. Here on this channel, but with just, you know, I'm not on my soapbox, but I think that this film, was pretty enjoyable. It felt very Evil Dead, right? It was super graphic and super bloody, and, you know, it was like, there was a lot of, like, gross gore and blood flying everywhere. That's the signature Evil Dead. You can't have an Evil Dead movie without blood everywhere. Like, raining blood, essentially. Can't have Evil Dead without it. Although, I will admit, I'm not gonna say, like, Evil Dead Rise was, like, totally better than Burn, but I think there were, like, certain aspects about Rise that I feel like I enjoyed more. Like, I kind of liked the setting of Rise a lot. I loved the idea of it being, like, a city in an apartment complex. Usually it's, you know, a shitty house in the middle of nowhere. That's like every Evil Dead movie except Army of Darkness, right? They're all in like a shitty house in the middle of nowhere, which fits, right, for the, you know, the premise. But I guess like shaking it up a little bit, having it in a city and an apartment complex was cool. And seeing how the Deadites would, you know, use the environment of a city instead of using using nature was interesting. And this movie kind of goes back to the roots of, like, forest, middle of nowhere, shitty rundown house, right? Which, of course, is an Evil Dead trademark. Like I said earlier, you can't go wrong with a shitty house in the middle of nowhere and demons trying to kill you, right? That's pretty classic. But I also think, one thing, this is a nitpick, okay? Like, I liked the movie, right? But there was just one thing that kind of irked me the whole movie, and it didn't really take away from my experience. I guess it was just, like, a little peeve that I had, a little pet peeve. Was that I feel like, I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like the movie kind of jumped in to the demon stuff a little too quick. And I know what you're going to say. Ronan, you're always complaining about whenever movies take too long to get into the juicy stuff, right? And yes, most of the time I do have an issue with that, but I kind of feel like I wanted to know these characters a little better before they started getting terrorized by Deadites, right? I just feel like I wanted a little more, I wanted to know a little more about them, right? Because even, like, the final girl, like, I think she was cool. I liked the actress that played her. I think she did a great job. I liked her, like, I liked the little arc she went through. I liked how, you know, she kind of grew to be more outspoken, I guess. She was kind of shy and skittish at the beginning of the movie, but then, of course, through demons murdering everyone around her, she became quite a bit more confident, right? Which is, typical, like, final girl character arc, but I still found that it was executed pretty well. I do like how the fact that, like, she's kind of like a third wheel in this story. Like, the demon, or the Deadites, are after this family, right? And she's not related to them by blood. She had, like, recently married into the family, and her husband was an asshole, right? And he abused her, and he was just a piece of shit. And so she didn't really care about the family all too much, right? She was just kind of there. So I do like the idea of the final girl, like, kind of just being there, and the demon just kind of, like, tosses her to the side because he doesn't care about her, right? She's not important or helpful in any way, so he just kind of ignores her, which eventually is what helps her come on top in the end, at least for the time being. And I do like that. I like that aspect, because usually sometimes you'd think, like, the final girl or, like, the final survivor would know what was going on or would be in the family or something like that, but she wasn't. I did like that. But I also feel like, again, I feel like I wanted to know, like, the family a bit more, I guess, before they started, dying and turning into Deadites. I feel like I just kind of wanted to know them better. And, again, that's a nitpick, but it's just a little pet peeve of mine. Just because I just like character writing, and I like fleshing out characters, I guess. It's just a little thing. But aside from that, what else? Let's just get into other stuff that I liked about the movie. Let's get away from my nitpick for a little bit. I really liked how, this is with every Evil Dead movie, I just love how maniacal the Deadites are, right? They're just such, like, I know this is kind of like an understatement, but they're kind of an asshole, right? Deadites are kind of assholes, right? They're like, obviously they're sadistic, being demons. They kind of play with their food a little bit. They don't, like, kill the humans right away, because they kind of, like, they're pure evil, right? So they like reveling in suffering and, torturing people and, making them suffer, right? I really do just think it's a delight to watch Deadites do their thing in Evil Dead. And not in, like, a happy way, but it's, like, it's entertaining, I guess. It's not, like, a literal delight, I guess. It's very graphic and violent, but it's entertainingly graphic and violent. I guess one thing I did kind of think was entertaining was kind of the aspect of the Deadites, like, they were going to try to reunite this whole family, and just turn them into a giant, like, not giant, but like a family of Deadites, which I thought could have been, I guess they were obviously, like, just puppets, right? They were all basically the same entity, right? Just taking control of several different people at once. But I kind of fooled the mother into doing that because she was just, like, so, I guess she just loved her family so much, and she was kind of blinded by the fact she couldn't really come to grips that they weren't really her family anymore, and that kind of doomed them all, basically, near the end of the movie. I guess in that sense, she is fleshed out as a character. The mother of the family was Susan. She was fleshed out in that sense that she was just she couldn't let go of things. And she just kind of was stubborn, I guess. But I also think I kind of wanted to know more about, like, their grandfather. Their grandfather, who was, like, a part of this, like, coalition that was, like, they were, I guess, like, demon hunters, in a sense. Because they were trying to hunt for artifacts to vanquish the demons that were on Earth, that, so that the demons are demons. They're going to do some bad shit. They're planning some bad shit. So they're going to stop them from doing bad shit. But they thought he was crazy. And of course, well, we know this franchise, he wasn't crazy. But, it's kind of weird to me. Like, there's just all this demon stuff going on. You kind of think it'd come out eventually at some point with all these demons running amok around this world. Maybe they're just good at covering it up. I have a little complaint here, and this is not really a problem with the movie. This is more a problem with the marketing. I think that in the trailer, they showed way too much cool shit. Like, all the cool, gory, like, effects and the cool, like, scenes in the movie, they showed too much in the trailer. In the first trailer, they showed, like, so much from the second half of the movie. They showed one of the characters dead already as a Deadite. And, like, obviously, pretty much all these characters, except one of them, are going to die. We know that, right? But we don't know what order they're going to die in, right? Like, I guess that's kind of the thing that keeps you guessing. So then they just showed one of the characters who has a fucking, like, there's a scene where this guy, Joseph, who's a member of the family, his girlfriend died. She got killed by his Deadite-possessed father because he, like, took off a car seat, like, the head of the car seat, and, like, stabbed her through the mouth with it, and it looked great, right? That was a great effect, and it was a great kill, really creative, right? And then when she came back as a Deadite, she still had the fucking seat impaled through her mouth and her face, and it looked great. I would have been like, oh, that's so cool, if they didn't fucking show it in the trailer, right? I would have thought that scene was so much cooler. I mean, it was still a cool scene, but I feel like I wanted to see it for the first time watching the movie. I didn't want to see it in the trailer. Again, nitpick, just a complaint. I wish I could have experienced that for the first time in the theater. Regardless. I also liked how, at the end of the movie, I guess I liked the final fight with the weird charred Will, who was the main girl Alice's ex-husband, who I mentioned earlier. And he's kind of like the main Deadite of the movie. They kind of like build him up the whole time. You don't really see him. You only get like glimpses of him here and there. And then they finally show him. And I think like the final confrontation, I think like the whole like thing around it, like the conversations they would have, like the back and forth that they had, how the Deadite was basically, because obviously this wasn't Will, right? This was a Deadite posing as Will, but like the Deadite knew everything about them, right? So it was kind of like manipulating her and trying to like demoralize her and like beat her down, right? And I did like everything around that. I like how at the end of the movie, like, I think like the Deadite was trying to manipulate her in some way with a vision of him saying, I love you, but clearly he was an abusive piece of shit, so she doesn't really fall for it, right? And then she, like, crushes his head, and it's a great little visual effect. It looks like she's, like, crushing a piñata or something, like a weird, charry, crumbly piñata. I liked that aspect, but, again, a little nitpick I have, he looked so fucking goofy, and yes, I understand, this is Evil Dead. Evil Dead is goofy in nature. There are some actual, like, good, funny bits in this movie, like the whole grandma character. She's hilarious. She was a great character, right? Like, when everything's going to shit, and, like, people are going crazy, and there's, like, a point where, like, the dad stabs their dog to death with a fork, and then, like, they're all, like, rushing, and then he, like, starts stabbing himself, and then they, like, rushed out the door to, like, get him in a car to go to the hospital, and then, like, it's all chaos, and then it cuts to the grandma, and she's just going, they didn't even leave without saying goodbye, or whatever. It was funny, okay? She was a funny character, but obviously this was not supposed to be goofy. The charred Will just looked so weird, and I get, he's a charred corpse. He's not gonna, like, look bulky or anything, right? Doesn't have much skin left. Got burned off. Doesn't change the fact that he looked really silly. Like, maybe they could have, like, hid him in shadows and, like, only showed his silhouette. Then maybe he wouldn't have been as goofy looking. But, like, they did that at first. They only saw, like, little glimpses of him, and it was pretty well done. And then we saw the full thing, and it was just, like, a weird CGI abomination, right? I wasn't really a huge fan of it. I thought it was too goofy for the movie, that even though there were funny moments, it was still like a serious Evil Dead movie compared to other Evil Dead movies. And that's all I'm saying. Wasn't a huge fan of that. So in that sense though, although I've given my complaints, I've given the things that I liked about it. And overall though, I would still recommend this film. If you're an Evil Dead fan, I mean, if you're just a fan of, I guess, satanic horror, demonic possession type movies, stuff like that, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had with this. And I really, really think that it's just a grand old time, despite some of the complaints I had. And with that being said, you may ask, what would I rate this film? Well, I think I would rate this film a 7 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I have something to say. I think I have something to piece. So, guys, I hope you like this video. Share it with friends, subscribe, turn those notifications on. comment down below on how much you liked it. But you guys know how it goes. I didn't really need to say that. What I really meant to say. So if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, dislike, and tell me how much you hate me in the comments. And I've been on Time HD. Off to vanquish the evil dead. So I was watching this movie, right? And it's been a while since I've seen Evil Dead Rise. So at the beginning, the deadite in the water that came out of the lake, with the cold open and stuff. The actress that played the deadite in the opening was actually the stunt double for the actress who played that deadite in the last one, which I think is just a cool little fun fact. That for one reason or the other, I guess they couldn't come back. So hey, stunt double, you look like him. So come in over here, and it's close enough. It's a short scene anyway.